from what I got from that, it was this idea of free versus quality.
Mm.
That they feel that with Call of Duty in particular going into Game Pass, there's going to be a shift in the mindset of the consumer thinking, hey, listen, we want subscription services to actually give us these high quality games. Your Horizon, your God of War, that needs to be in a subscription service. So far, Xbox hasn't been dropping, you could say, top quality games to kind of make that threat a reality. But after that showcase, it's quite clear that that's going to be the case, especially with Call of Duty dropping. Diablo is going to be dropping there as well. Um, but do you think Sony's fears are justified here? Do you think that they need to be worried, because that's overall the sentiment I saw from the leaks, that they're in a position that they don't want to be in. There's really some worry going on there at the Sony headquarters.
I mean, I think that their concern definitely has some merit for sure. I mean, you look at it and like, we've been talking about it on the game room, last year when I came on this show, and, we talked about it. And I think Xbox is really setting themselves up for the future. Even the stuff we're going to talk about later, whether we like it or not, like that is also them setting themselves up for the future and trying to grow and set up their longevity. And I think that if you're PlayStation, who, they're doing things the way that the games industry has always been done before Game Pass came along. You develop the game, you have your budget, you make the game, you put the game out, and then you just kind of let those sales coast for like 3-4 years, and then that studio, you expect them to put out another game like 3-4 years down the line. Now it's like 7-8 years down the line, but the point still kind of stands. And I think that PlayStation is in a place right now where obviously they're still making a lot of money and there's a lot of success right now, but you got to be concerned, if you're them, like you're looking at the writing on the wall, and is it just like, what are we looking at 10 years from now? Because, there is a big question about, can a $300 million budget or whatever Spider-Man 2 was, is that sustainable? And I don't know if it is, because, there's a lot of games out there. And, I buy a lot of games a year, but I'm in like the 1%. You know what I mean? Like, I buy probably 12 plus games a year. That's just me. There's not many people that do that. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's definitely some concern. I think they're going to have to do something different, even if it's the same model, maybe like taking some cuts in some places. I don't know.
Would you say that because for me, when I first saw these leaks, the first thing that came to my mind, which I always believe, is that Jim Ryan is right and justified. He has always been the one pushing PlayStation into this new avenue, right? So, for example, he starts releasing PlayStation games on PC. The previous heads weren't doing that. He starts to put some games day and date. The previous guys weren't doing that. He starts to focus on live service games because he knows the bottom line is true. 300 million euro games are not sustainable. We can't just keep making these games and expecting a return, because if something happens, the game bombs for whatever reason, it doesn't reach that milestone, we're gonna be in the red. AKA, look at Bungie, for example. Perfect example. Like, they dropped their expansion. It didn't work out too well, and then they're in the red zone. So I think PlayStation is kind of looking at that, saying, yeah, we're not in a safe space. We might have the market share, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have all the profits. We have the revenue, just not the profits. So would you agree, or do you think, I'm going a bit too far in saying that Jim Ryan was actually correct, and the new CEO of PlayStation, whoever that may be, is actually just going to follow in his footsteps?
Look, I'm not going to sit here and say that I 100% agree with flying, crying, lying Jim Ryan, Yeah. No, but I mean, like, sure, I think he's doing what he felt was best for his brand and for the PlayStation brand. And, I do think that there's some justification there. I don't personally agree with some of it. I don't think games as a service is a sustainable model. I think we're seeing that right now. I mean, the biggest, most successful games as a service of all time right now, Destiny, is about to die. I mean, or at least it feels like it's dying. This is the view from an outsider. I don't play Destiny, but like, that's the way I view it, is that I think that game is on its last legs. And I mean, granted, it lasted a while, but I don't know. I think that there's a healthy middle ground to be had. It's not about post-launch support. It's just about, the kind of game you're trying to make. Don't make a game with the intention of, well, people are just going to go back and grind things out every day for the next 20 years. Like, make a great game and, add to that game with expansions. That's the way I would do that. But no, to get back to the question, I think Jim Ryan is partly, I think it's partly justified, even if I don't agree with some of the decisions.
Yeah, I can see why people are not a big fan, especially because he's trying to change what we're all used to, right? But I feel like Xbox also did this as well. After the Xbox 360 generation, where they decided to start dropping games on PC, that is a big shift for them as well. And that's another topic we'll get into in a little bit. But just to kind of piggyback off this idea of PlayStation expanding outwards, one of the things that Jim always said was that it's not sustainable to drop games day and date. And basically, when Horizon Forbidden West dropped, when it dropped, the following year they dropped it on PlayStation, on the PlayStation subscription service, and which was big. It was huge because that's not something that we expected. Now, the question is, are we going to expect that in the future? And the answer might probably be no, because what happened was the projected revenue, which was supposed to be, I think, 124 million, and they only made 30 something. So doing the numbers real quick, that's around 85 million loss in sales. Now, does that justify them PlayStation saying, hey, listen, we were right all along, we can't, this is not a sustainable model? Xbox is talking crap, they're talking shit, they're just lying to you guys. The idea of premium games appearing on a subscription service is not sustainable and will actually destroy the industry. Now, it's a bit of a reach to say that, but do you think there's some weight there given the numbers of Horizon Forbidden West losing out on 80 plus billion revenue?
See, I think it's definitely a tough discussion to be had, because I don't know if PlayStation can afford it. I mean, if you're spending $300 million to make Spider-Man 2, I mean, that's a lot of money, and obviously Sony does not have the money Microsoft has. You know what I mean? Like, Microsoft has the money where they can take a loss here and there. They'll make it back. Even maybe not in the Xbox brand, which I do think that Xbox as a whole is, like, it seems sustainable to me. But time will tell. Like you said, the first party rollout is just starting. In terms of PlayStation, though, like, honestly, I don't know if that model is going to work for them. I think that there are things that they could do to help make that more appealing and make it more doable. We talk about the day and date releases. This isn't meant the way you said it, where day and date isn't a subscription service, but maybe it's time for PlayStation to start looking at day and date release with PC and Steam. I mean, that's done really well for Xbox. We've seen the sales. Starfield did really well outside of Game Pass. You take Starfield as that example. I think Starfield is a great example as to how to do it, where we last time we talked about, like, the Xbox ecosystem, and, like, it's all about entry points, like how, like, where do you want to get in, what floor do you want to get in on? And I think that PlayStation could look at that as a possibility. It's like, well, if we're putting our games on Steam, the PC gamers who won't have an access to PS Plus, like, that's an option for them. And I don't know. I think that on a high budget, who knows? I mean, I'm not really sure what Xbox's budgets on their games look like. But
I actually think it's all true, but I think it doesn't factor in, okay, how many subscribers did you actually gain from putting Horizon Forbidden West on your premium subscription services? Like, that needs to be accounted for. But also, the other part that I think is really important here is you don't drop one game on a subscription service and then say, okay, we lost all this money, because that's not how it works. Technology and subscription services always start off at zero. Sorry, not even zero, minus, right? And then the more subscribers you get, the more income you bring in, more revenue you bring in, and then eventually that turns to profit. It's the same model Netflix uses, same model Apple TV uses, same model all the subscription services uses. So you can't just take one big game and say, well, we lost money, because it's a compounding factor. You drop Horizon Forbidden West, you drop Spider-Man 2, you drop God of War, and then you're going to see people actually gravitate towards that service. Then it's going to start making up for those losses, because as soon as those players leave, as soon as those players finish the game or whatever it is, they're still going to stay subscribed because they have more content to play. Like, my friend just joined Game Pass last month. He's still a subscriber, and he's still going to be a subscriber. So he came for specific games, but he's staying for the other games, right? And I don't think PlayStation has that, because their content isn't really there yet. whereas Xbox does. I mean, you join to play Starfield, but you got Forza, you got Halo, you got Persona there. Then you're looking at the slate of the next games coming the next year. You got Stalker 2 coming down. You got Indiana Jones. Listen, we can keep going on and on and on.
We can go.
That's how subscription services work. So when I saw this article, I think it's looking at it from a very micro level. It's not looking at the actual impact and as to how subscription services work. So I kind of dismissed it straight away. But I think it is important to note that, like, I don't know if Sony's gonna look at it that way. They might just say, we lost money, screw this. Like, we're gonna do this again for some time.